So the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl happened. So you should be able to raise your hands in the lower right of the screen. So do we have any Giants fans on the line? If you're a Giants fan, please do raise your hand. We have a good amount coming in. All right. Congratulations to the Giants fans. So our office is actually right outside of Boston. I didn't have a rooting interest in the Super Bowl, but trust me, this screenshot right here is not a very happy screenshot for everybody else in our office. For those of you who are raising your hands, please go to Pound Awareness Inc. if you'd like to gloat. That's part of what makes sports and social media work so well together, is the ability to brag online, so please do feel free to do that. But let's talk about the Super Bowl. So for most people, what you're looking at are the pictures that really embody the story of the Super Bowl. The big catch, the touchdown, the game-winning touchdown that he kind of fell into, Eli Manning being named the game MVP. So for most people, this is the story of the Super Bowl. But I'm going to talk about the story behind the story, or in this case, one of the stories behind the story. I'm going to talk to you about the social media story behind the Super Bowl. So many of you on the line may have been to Super Bowls. Many of you probably have not. Actually, raise your hand if you've ever been to a Super Bowl. And not too many people. Okay, so not too many people have been to a Super Bowl, but as you can probably imagine, the game itself is actually only a small part of the experience. It's actually a week-long event that takes place that requires, a lot of things going into it. So you have all these people descending on a city. They need certain things. They need hotels. They need parking. They need transportation. But even more than that, they need entertainment. So here's a picture of the Super Bowl Village that was up. It was basically a 10-day festival. It was a centralized area for entertainment, and the stats I saw on this are 1.1 million people had visited the Super Bowl Village in Indianapolis during Super Bowl 46. Now, to put that into some perspective, Lucas Oil Stadium, the stadium that actually housed the Super Bowl, only seats about 60,000 people. So the event itself is much bigger than just the game. Another good example of this, of what goes on there, is this is a screenshot of a party that was happening at the Super Bowl Village. So the Super Bowl Village isn't just a place for families to go and sort of see events. There's parties. There's other things to do. There's a zip line. There's lots of activities throughout the city. This doesn't even include the sort of non-official events that go on throughout the city. Here's another good way to look at it. So what you're looking at here is a web page from the Super Bowl 46 website, specifically the event page, or more accurately, a portion of the event page, because if I put the full event page up on this screen, you wouldn't be able to read it. The font would be minuscule and illegible. There was over 280 individual events listed on the event page for the Super Bowl. So you can, I'm trying to set the scene here. It's a gargantuan effort. There's a lot of things going on. So in 2012, the Super Bowl, the NFL, the Super Bowl hosting committee, they're smart enough to know that they need a social media infrastructure behind the event. And when I talk about an infrastructure, I'm not talking about sort of like a digital infrastructure like Wi-Fi and outlets. I'm talking about the social media aspect of infrastructure. So when you think about infrastructure, it's actually, the organizational structures needed for the operation of an enterprise. In 2012, the powers that be understand that these organizational infrastructures now need to include social media. So what did they do? They tapped Radius. Radius is a social media and digital marketing agency. Talby is from Radius. He's the president and CEO, gracious enough to be in on the call today. So they asked them, an Indianapolis-based agency, to spearhead a highly complex effort to service and engage with fans via social media. So what did Radius do? How did Radius do this? They created the first ever social media command center. So what you're seeing here is some screenshots of the social media command center and some relevant statistics of the social media command center. But really what you need to know is, it's a large facility with a large seating capacity. It's highly connected to the internet. There's lots of rooms to connect to people on social media, as well as planning rooms and whiteboard rooms. It's a very sophisticated area in order to conduct social marketing. The goal of the Social Media Command Center, you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, is Hoosier hospitality for the 21st century. So it's one thing to have a command center, but that was the main objective. And how did they accomplish this objective? Well, they had a staff of 50 that were contributing to the Social Media Command Center. Many of that staff were, volunteers from local colleges, as well as Radius staff. This got a lot of press. It was in CNN. It was in Mashable. It was in ESPN. It was Huffington Post. They got a lot of press. They had a lot of special guests. Arian Foster stopped by, who's the all-pro running back for the Houston Texans, to tweet a little bit with the fans. So this was definitely a big deal. But always remember, Hoosier hospitality for the 21st century. The way that they thought they could accomplish this was by looking at three main issues, by tackling three main issues in the social marketing. Those are fan safety issues, event and service information such as parking and directions, updates like that, and highlighting the positive aspects of the Indianapolis community, basically making Indianapolis look good and giving it some personality. The other thing to keep in mind is the way that they did this primarily was through Facebook and Twitter. They also had other social properties such as YouTube and Flickr, but for the purposes of our webinar and our discussion today, we're going to focus on the activities that they did in Facebook and Twitter, though there were more. So the next question would be, why am I qualified to talk about this? Why am I giving this webinar? And the reason I'm giving this webinar is my company, Awareness, was the software that powered the Social Media Command Center. So for those of you on the line who don't know what Awareness is, many of you probably do, some of you don't. We are a company that makes social media software, allowing you to publish, manage, measure, and engage across all of your social channels. So the members of the Social Media Command Center used Awareness to actually engage with fans and monitor conversations. Because we were involved and because this was a big deal, we sort of had behind-the-scenes access to what was going on, helping to make sure everything ran smoothly. So that's why we at Awareness are able to give this webinar. So let's talk about what the Social Media Command Center did to make their social media stand out, to make it successful, and lessons you can take from the Social Media Command Center. So the first tip that I'll give is to get strategically reactionary. So I want everyone to think about that for a second. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you think about it, social media is all about being reactionary. At least most of the time it's about being reactionary. So everything is in real time. You don't know what you're going to get out of user comments when you post something or user-generated content. You don't know what information or events in the future will be something that your company will need to address or that will want to promote. I'll give you an example. For the purposes of Awareness, I can probably tell you what our product is going to have in terms of new functionality in 3 months, but I can't tell you the comments that I'm going to get when I release this product over the social web. I can't tell you the industry news that's going to come up. I can't tell you the new social media features that are going to come up that are being worked on behind closed doors at the social networks right now. So a lot of it is reactionary. But that doesn't mean you can't also be strategic. It doesn't mean that there's not strategic decisions that you can make right now before you even start posting on the social web or before you start your next social campaign that will help guide the reactionary efforts that you make. Let's take a look at some of these. I'm also getting some questions here. Again, the hashtag is #AwarenessInc to join the discussion on Twitter. But let's take a look at one of the first strategic decision that we need to take a look at. So the first is look and feel. What do your social channels actually look like? What is the experience that the audience receives when they go to your social channels? Social channels have different aspects that they allow for customizations. Some allow more customization than others, but let's take a look at these two examples. So on the left here, you're seeing the Indianapolis Super Bowl Twitter stream. On the right, you're seeing the Facebook stream, their Facebook page. They're very similar. They use a similar color scheme. They use the same logo, and they feature it prominently. They also have sort of a very subtle, faded view of Indianapolis in the background. And they did this for a specific reason. They want people to be familiar with their social pages. You want people to be familiar with your social pages because you want people following you on as many social channels as you have, as is possible. Many marketers out there think that that if someone's following you on Twitter, that you have them. And that's just simply not the case. If you have Facebook and you have Twitter and you have LinkedIn and you have all these other channels, you want people to be following you on as many of those channels as you possibly can. The reason is it offers you additional messaging options. So for Twitter, I can tweet 10 times a day, 50 times a day. That's no problem. On Facebook, I can sort of get away with 1 or 2 posts a day realistically that will be seen by the audience. LinkedIn is another good example. LinkedIn is the only social network that allows for an email blast, a direct email blast. If you have a LinkedIn group, you can blast your entire LinkedIn group with an email, and that's not an option that's really available via the other social networks. So the reason why a consistent look and feel is important is because it will get you more users following multiple social networks that allows for multiple social messaging options. Users want to be contacted in a way in which they feel comfortable with, that they are on at the moment or into at the moment. So giving a consistent look and feel will contribute to that. Let's also talk about another aspect of look and feel, which is important. So let's take a look at these pages. Notice that there isn't really a huge description of what you actually get out of these pages. In a Twitter stream on the left, there is a bit of a description in the right underneath the name. But in many cases on a Twitter stream, that image might contain more information. It may say, here's what you'll get out of this, or take this action, or follow us here, or give some kind of expectation of what you'll receive by following. On the right side of the screen with Facebook, really all you have is a message to like the page and a big logo. Now, why did they do that? It's very important. They are a very emotional brand. It's the Super Bowl, right? So basically what they're saying is, if you like the Super Bowl, like our page. If you like the Super Bowl, follow our Twitter stream. It's just that simple. There's a direct emotional connection with the brand. So what you need to do is you need to evaluate if you also have that direct connection. Do you have a brand or a product that your users are aware of and intimately connected with, in which you could just put a logo up there and gain fans? So Coca-Cola could probably do this. Follow the Coca-Cola Facebook page because it's the Coca-Cola Facebook page. And some of you out there have really dedicated fans, and you can get away with this. And what you should be doing is playing on their emotions. If you're a less well-known brand, if people are not aware of what your page might have to offer, then maybe you need to do a little bit more explanation than this. Maybe you should, instead of just like our page on Facebook, you need to sort of talk about some of the benefits of liking your page. So it really is a brand-by-brand decision. If you feel like you have a strong emotional connection with your audience, you can take this strategy. If not, then you need to take another strategy. So let's talk another very strategic decision that you need to make up front. Topics to address and topics to ignore. So again, in the case of the Social Media Command Center, they're trying to promote Hoosier hospitality for the 21st century. They're addressing public safety and event hospitality issues. They're talking about parking conditions. They're talking about positive aspects of the Indianapolis community. That is their focus. And some marketers struggle with this because if you choose topics to address, that means that you have to ignore topics. You can't be all things to all people. So I'll give you a good example. Let's take a look at an actual back and forth on social media. So you have this user. She tweets, trying to figure out what I should wear to the Super Bowl Village tomorrow night. Notice that she didn't even tweet to the Super Bowl 2012 Twitter account, but they're monitoring keywords. I'm assuming that they're monitoring Super Bowl Village. And they respond back to her. They respond back to her with a tweet about the weather. Here's where to check for the weather so you'll know what to wear tomorrow. And that's because they've chosen the topics that they want to address. They're choosing hospitality topics. They're not choosing player updates and player injuries. They didn't tweet back to her, hey, make sure at 7 o'clock you get near a TV screen so that you can watch us break down game film, that sort of thing. And that's because that is not the topic that they're choosing to address. They're choosing to address topics that directly affect their goal. So I know that this can be somewhat difficult for marketers. Some marketers out there have social pages that do address a wide range of topics. And what I would recommend for that is, why not break down your social media into different social properties and then break down those topics? And I'll give you an example. The Super Bowl committee didn't do this, but they very could have easily talked about creating a Twitter stream specifically for player injuries. So Super Bowl 2012 injuries, Super Bowl 2012 player updates. And there's where people can tweet if they want to know, who's injured or what's going on with the game, that sort of thing. So if you feel like you are addressing a wide range of topics and it's getting a little bit too wide, then what I recommend is breaking down those social properties. And you may think, okay, this is, am I not just creating more work for myself? But with the way you manage social media now, the way modern social media managers are operating, it doesn't really take that much effort. If you have this content already, and you're already addressing it, you have this knowledge already, why not break down the topics? You can manage Twitter via certain technologies, all in one interface. You're not logging in and logging out, and you're more accurately delivering information to the people who want it when they want it. So they don't have to log into your information and see a bunch of stuff that they don't want to get to the stuff that they do want. And if they want to follow, say, both of your Twitter streams, there's no problem with that. But the point is, if you have this information, management really isn't a problem. It's actually much easier to do than you might think.